Welcome, everyone, to episode 159 of the Wise Guys Sports Show here on a special Wednesday. This is our post MLB trade deadline review. We were going to do a preview, and then things kind of got in the way. Other things came out, Michael. But this is as good a time as any to be able to discuss all the moves that went down. And yes, we are going to talk that move as well.
Yeah, we are, and it's my favorite day of the year, Jim. Is or one of them is Major League Baseball trade deadline day because it is so much fun. As a lifelong baseball lunatic, I have been through as a fan trade deadlines where my team has bought and gone on to win a lot of games, and unfortunately this year I am one of the sellers. And they sold in a big way yesterday. But if we can get one piece of housekeeping out of the way first, and is one thing that Jim and I, as we come very close to the Wise Guys 5-year anniversary this coming October, we have had a certain member of the Big Rican family who has been contractually obligated to show his face and fur on every episode. And unfortunately, today, Ali crossed the Rainbow Bridge. We had to make the tough decision to do that. Well, truth be told, I was home with Bobby because I couldn't have done it. So Mrs. Rican actually took him into the vet, and he will be missed. We had him for 10 years. The hilarious part is when I was little and my parents told me my sister was coming, I wanted a dog instead of a sister. Oliver had the same birthday as my sister, Megan. So I would always tease her with Facebook posts. Happy birthday, Ollie. Oh, yeah, you too, Megan. So rough day in the Big Rican household. Thank God I was off of work. But on to other sad things. Jim, look what the Mets are doing.
Yeah, so let's get it started here. We're naturally going to skip that first one for the time being, but um listen, who saw Adley Rushman getting moved to the Red
Dude,
Sox?
I did not. And the thing is, we talked about the Red Sox and their big winning streak that really got them back into the thick of things in the American League. Jim, this has to make them a favorite to get in to make noise come October. Rutschman, who is after his amazing rookie year, and of course that great moment when he stood behind home plate at Camden Yards and just took it all in. He fell off offensively, a 3-time All-Star, even though he started to make strides coming back. And you think this is the kind of player that may need a change of scenery to where, Gunnar Henderson came up shortly after him, the Jackson Holiday explosion after that. And then now you have Pete Alonso in that lineup and in that clubhouse, really as the clubhouse leader. Adley Rutschman's place in Baltimore kind of fell off the face of the earth. And now I think in Boston, Jim, and I want you to expand on this a little bit too. I think in Boston, he's going to make some noise in that lineup. And especially with that pitching staff that has been so good throughout the first part of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to go major league here, but it's definitely um it almost gives that Lou Brown, Charlie talk of, there's a lot of talent on this team. We just need one to bring it all together. I'm not saying the Red Sox are going to win the thing. I mean, they still have to catch the Yankees and the Rays made themselves a very big move to be able to kind of push
Yes, they
them ahead
did.
of even further ahead of the pack. And we're going to talk a lot of these moves today. We've only got a couple of them listed along the bottom for spacing reasons. But I do like Rushman there. I'm actually a little bit surprised because of he was the number one overall pick 6 years ago, and he was a 3-time All-Star. There's not a lot of great catchers in the American League anymore, to be honest, though.
There's not.
And Baltimore, he's the one guy that they would always send year after year, but it's like he kind of fell out there. You're right. He always got to that pinnacle, but he can never really kind of go over the top. But it's also the fact that Baltimore didn't do a whole lot to help him except for that one season that they made that run to the playoffs a few years back. But I hope big things for him. Um, you know, with the Red Sox. I really, really do, as they're just opening up a can of whoop ass on the White Sox tonight. And I want to say I don't think he's in the lineup tonight. I think his debut is going to be tomorrow. Yeah, because they've still got Chase Wong in there tonight. Connor Wong, I'm sorry. But he'll be their everyday catcher and definitely can provide a little extra pop for a team that already has quite a bit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had mentioned they have to catch the Yankees in Tampa. Let's talk about Tampa, because Tampa made maybe the biggest pitching move in this, not named the first guy, in this trade deadline season, is they send 4 minor leaguers to the New York Mets for Freddie Peralta. A lot of people think Peralta was screwed up by the way the Mets were trying to do things. I disagree. Stearns knows the guy. He's the one who drafted him in Milwaukee. So I don't think that's a problem. I think Freddie Peralta had a bad year. But now you add him to McClanahan and Nick Martinez and Drew Rasmussen, and you have a top 4. Jim, if we get a replay of the Bubble World Series, it's going to go 7 games. That's how good Tampa is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and get it out of their system now, just, in time before that new ballpark gets built in a few years. I mean, how ironic would that be that we talked that a team that always seems to kind of jumpstart a franchise, so to speak, when they know that they're on their way out or a new ballpark's getting built. Look what happened with Cleveland in the mid 90s after Jacobs Field was built, now Progressive Field.
Oh.
Look at what we're hoping happens with the A's when they're on the Strip in 2 years. Look at what's, the Marlins playing better now with their new park. Definitely kind of getting back into the thick of things before that massive losing streak that we were talking about ad nauseum last week. We're hopeful that, the Rays, we showed that how successful they can be, and now hopefully being able to go past that when their new ballpark gets done, probably by 2029 or 2030.
Yeah, and I hope it happens too. Baseball is better when the A's are good. Just kind of how it works. A couple other moves that we don't have listed on there. How about the White Sox going out and getting Luis Castillo from Seattle?
Yeah, I like that move, which is a little strange because Seattle's still in the thick of things. To be able to make a move like that. I mean, the Mariners, they're 2.5 back. They're 3 under 500. But again, that's a division being led by the Astros that are only 2 over 500. And oh yeah, the Rangers have lost 6 in a row to lose their stranglehold on that division.
Yeah, and that deal, they get Castillo from Seattle, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Nolan Jones, and a catching prospect, Boston Smith, go to Seattle. And I think the thing was, Jim, Seattle needed some bullpen help. Their starters have been great. George Kirby's at the front of that rotation, just absolutely shoving every night. But their bullpen had some questions. As much as we make fun of his name, Sir Anthony, he is a quality bullpen arm. He has been to the wars in the postseason. Nolan Smith is a nice piece for them to add because they did need a bat. I mean, it seems like that's one of those ones that's going to work out for everybody.
Going back to the Rutschman deal, I'm looking up some. Do you realize 3 catchers got moved in that deal?
Yes, I saw that. I saw that. What was the other one that was insane? How about
a few others? The Padres getting Robbie Ray from the Giants. Liam Hicks. The Rays also pick up Liam Hicks from the Marlins for 3 prospects as a catcher. The White Sox grab Brenton Doyle from the Rockies, which surprised me a little bit with them trying to rebuild.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and I'm going to say this as a Met fan real quick. People who are hating on what the Mets deal for Freddie Peralta was, and people who are saying things about how many prospects went for Liam Hicks. Here's something you got to remember. Tampa doesn't buy players. They what's the word I'm looking for?
Rental?
They develop them. No, they don't do the rental thing. Think about it. They don't. They develop their players. When you get 3 prospects from a team that has got development down to a fucking science, your farm system just got better. See, because for the buyers of the deadline, it's about this year. For the sellers, it's about 2028 and beyond. Maybe 2027 if there is one. For some people, if depending on what you got in return. But this is about 2028 and beyond. And you're talking about, at least with the Mets, getting multiple prospects from teams with farm systems better than theirs. Pretty smart. Same thing for the Marlins. You bring in 3 dudes from the Tampa Bay system, that makes your system better.
Couple other major moves here. The Yankees grab Luis Garcia Jr. from the Nationals in exchange for 4 prospects. We talked about Freddie Peralta for 3 prospects there. The Luis Castillo for 3 prospects with the White Sox. You just brought up Lane Thomas goes from Kansas City to Atlanta to add an extra bat to their outfield. One of the first ones that we actually saw were the Yankees moving Camilo Duval to bolster the Pirates bullpen.
And then they go out and get Luke Weaver from the Mets.
Right. And there were Luis Arias going to Philadelphia is a huge upgrade for them.
He had 3 hits tonight.
Yeah.
And Harper's back in the outfield.
After being a 1.5 feet away from a championship last year, the Blue Jays are also in seller mode by selling off Kevin Gausman.
Yeah, but they brought in some people too.
They did.
You know, they brought in Jose Soriano from the Angels. I know they brought in Jameson Taillon from the Cubs. You brought up the Braves. Did you hear about the deal that wasn't now?
I've heard something about this, but there were so many moves, it's hard to keep track of everything.
The Atlanta Braves had a deal in place, and all they needed was for Jacob deGrom to waive his no-trade clause, and he said no. He will stay in Texas. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
Dusty May, the Cardinals flipped to an interdivision rival with the Brewers for a couple of outfielding prospects. Clay Holmes, we talked about going to the Cubs. Dalton Varsho going from the Jays to the Astros for Spencer Arrigati.
The Clay Holmes thing was Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor to Chicago for Jefferson Rojas, who went into the Mets organization, is now the number 1 prospect in the Mets organization.
And then we'll talk about the Guardians here. As the Guardians make 3 different moves in no particular order here. They flip reliever Alejandro Rivera to the Cincinnati Reds for first baseman / DH Nathaniel Lowe. Mike, why does this kind of scream Jay Bruce to me?
Well, they're both left-handed. They both hit for power, and quite honestly, they both look kind of the same build. Because for those who will listen tomorrow when this goes up, the Mets are in Cleveland right now, and I was watching the Mets Guardians game on the MLB app on my Xbox. And Nathaniel Lowe, I said to Jim, I was like, who the hell is that? That dude looks old as shit. Because with the Guardians, you're used to these kids who look like they're 7.
The second move that they made, and this one surprised a lot of people, is they send 4 prospects, including 3 pitchers, to the Washington Nationals for All-Star Foster Griffin.
It's a move they needed to make. This is Nathaniel Lowe's a nice piece. Foster Griffin, to me, with the way the Guardians have been playing, was a must.
And if we're looking at because this is a 2-month rental for Griffin, because he's an unrestricted free agent after the year. He's only bringing in $1.6 million at 31 years old. So it's basically, them just trying to wake something up here and move on. But if you're a Guardians fan, which I am, the big move that they make, Michael, talk about it.
I love Joe Adell to Cleveland. First of all, you've upgraded your outfield defense, which with the Guardians is something that you're looking at and going, how much better can it get? Well, you got a platinum glover and Stephen Kwan, who played center field tonight. Joe Adell's in right. Is Chase DeLauder playing left?
I believe so. He kind of platoons between their first base. You've also got
he's going to be in the outfield now.
You got Petey Halpin, who's a very, very, even though he can't hit his weight half the time, he's very good in center field. He might be the fastest player on that roster.
Yeah, I knew they had a guy who was offensively challenged, but very good with the glove and very good on the bases. I couldn't remember his name to save my life, Jim. I apologize for that.
So
but listen, Joe Adell not only.
So the Guardians give up catching prospect Jacob Kozar, which ironically enough, they also shipped off former starting catcher Bo Naylor a few days earlier in a deal. And I'm thinking to myself, can we get a catcher for the Guardians who can hit at least 200? I mean, Austin Hedges is hitting 276, but he's only played 50 some odd games. And after they acquired Patrick Bailey, he's only hitting 224. So in the aggregate, they're barely hitting 200. But can we actually maybe keep a catcher? Because we've got, as a Clevelander, they've got enough guys in that lineup that do their talking with their glove and not their bat. It would have been nice to be able to get at least some sort of hitting catcher still in their organization.
Yeah, for as much as their pitching has developed really well, they haven't developed the catchers in Sandy Alomar. It was nice to see him coaching first base tonight, by the way. They had a guy was on base in the ninth inning. I guess that was pretty cool. I love seeing that number and that guard in that Cleveland red and blue. That just always makes me smile.
And the funny thing about Joe Adell is he gets traded. He hasn't even played a game, and he already leads the team in home runs and RBIs.
Yeah, and this was the bat that DeGardos needed. He has had a great season. You played with Mike Trout for a few years. You learned a few things. And from what I understand, he's a great dude just to begin with. He's just a great dude.
I mean, the fact that he went from 14 home runs in 2024 and hit for 38 of them last year, that's definitely a lot of pop adding into that lineup. We'll see what happens, in Cleveland as it starts getting cooler and the ball's going to sit a little bit more. But he definitely has the power numbers. And you can not only have him this year, but he's also it's a team option, so they have full control over him for 2027 as well to be able to try and see if they can move him forward. And we're deliberately skipping that last one because we're going to add more time onto this segment after that clock runs out.
Yeah, but if we can get to what my guys had to do quickly. Look, the Mets sent out 7 players. They got 13 of them back. No major league talent. But if you look at what they did get back as far as prospects go, this is a farm system that is now top 2 or 3 in the game. I know Met fans are frustrated. I know the biggest payroll in the game is playing like shit. I get it. I'm angry too. Ask Jim. He hears me all the time. I am so pissed at that team right now. I could spit nails. But here is...
Who are you, Mr. Dewey?
What? Yeah, right? It's funny. I said I could spit nails, and they did the 86 reunion over the weekend, and Dykstra was there. Did you know his daughter-in-law is Jamie Lynn Sigler from the fucking Sopranos? I didn't know that. She should know better than to be married to a dirtbag's kid like that.
And what's funny is I never watched that show, but I used to have a set of the Sopranos, the poker chips that they used. They were still the best poker chips I've ever used.
Oh, well, of course.
The problem was that they were 100% clay and had no metal inserts, so they left marks on everything every time you used them.
Again, mobbed up. Hello. Remember where you live.
Okay. Can we not do that right now?
Can we put a counter up for that, please?
I will work a widget for next week's show, maybe.
But look, the Mets had no choice. They got rid of, I want to say everybody with the exception of Luke Weaver was an expiring contract. The kid they got for Luke Weaver from Pittsburgh is a homegrown New York kid who's a big Met fan and is as good a shortstop defensively as Francisco Lindor. I think the Mets found their second. Yeah, and I think the Mets found their second baseman because they're not going to move Lindor off shortstop and they're not going to trade him. They've already said we are not trading Francisco Lindor. Don't even think about it. He's staying in New York. Other than that, you had a couple of things. Yeah, he's only 21. And you had a couple of things. You had a fan favorite. His son is acquired as they acquired Bruin Agbayani, the son of Benny Agbayani, Met from circa 99, 2000. Most famous for 2 home runs. He hit one was a grand slam in Japan in game 2 of the 2000 season. And the other one was a walk-off home run in game 3 of the 2000 NLDS against the Giants off of left-handed pitcher Aaron Fultz. Not that I follow the team closely, that I can pull out the name Aaron Fultz. But listen, this is a team that now has to have a reckoning. Going into a season that we don't know what's going to happen, this Mets team has something to show. They've got to come out and play well. They won tonight. Let's see what they do tomorrow. I hope they don't I hope they drop the next 2 because I don't want them to screw the Guardians over. But I said to my sister and my father, because we have a group chat, and my sister sends a message. Of course, the Mets score 3 fucking runs after they sell everybody off. And I wrote to her, I go, if they go on a run and start to make it look interesting and start beating teams that are going to be in the playoffs, I'm going to be pissed. Because where was the heart all season? So close the book. You can close the book on the Mets for 2026. Thank God.
Oh, shit.
Well done, sir. Well done.
So we're going to stop the timer a little early on that. And Mike, a moment, please. No, somebody didn't die. Baseball did for 2027. Mike, we're going to have it out. The Detroit Tigers send the best pitcher probably of the last 50 years to the richest team in baseball. Congratulations, Dodgers. Here's your three-peat. You've killed the 2027 season.
Let's get 2 things very, very clear. There are 30 teams in Major League Baseball. 29 of them could have made this deal. Everybody had prospects that they could have sent to Detroit to get this done. Here's why it didn't get done and went to the Dodgers. Scooble's a California kid. Everybody and their mother knew he was going there anyway. The people you should be mad at are the Detroit Tigers. Never mind the fucking Dodgers. Herman Edwards said, you play to win the game. They're playing to win the game. Again, I saw this today. The biggest problem with the Dodgers is not the fact that they have basically put the Avengers together. It's that they have $1.12 billion in deferred money on this current team. There is $1.12 billion of deferred money in the 29 other teams, and they counted Bobby fucking Bonilla in that.
Michael, DraftKings of all teams put up a graphic yesterday after the deal became finalized that made me nearly, and I kid you not, I nearly threw up. The Dodgers' luxury tax bill for this year by adding him is more than the payroll of 14 MLB teams. Half the fucking league in luxury tax money. We talked about it last week with the problem with the where we'll talk the salary cap, salary floor for a couple of moments again. But if ever there was a point where it needs to happen, there's your fucking answer.
I'm not disagreeing with you. My whole thing about a salary floor is this: that luxury tax money gets sent to the other teams. Why? When they send out the fucking reporting, Jim, that most of the teams that you are talking about are in the black. They operate to the positive of a fucking budget, and they don't spend dick on players.
I understand that. I do.
That is my problem.
I understand
That is my problem.
But let me throw some numbers out at you, and I'm not going to make this the YZ numbers of the week. But one of the proposals that I've seen that I like, because when you look at all the other sports and you've got the cap, well, they actually have that in the NFL, but it's never going to be, if you're going to do a hard cap and a soft floor in like the NFL does. The NFL's salary cap goes up every year. Their salary floor is 90% of the cap. So that's why you don't have teams with, $10 million, $100 million salary cap room. You might have a team with, I want to say the 49ers, for being a playoff team are still like 40 million under the cap going into the season with training camp breaking. And we've got preseason football next weekend. By the time this show airs. But it's still the fact that they're still 40 million under the cap and can be competitive. But there's other teams that might be slightly over the cap. So again, it's not that big of a disparaging remark of amount. The numbers that I've seen, I kind of like this a little bit. Your salary floor would be somewhere in the middle, somewhere in the range of about 140 to 150 million. And your salary cap would be somewhere around, I want to say about 210, 215, which I do like, because then what it does is that there are 6 or 7 teams in baseball that spend under $100 million. Cleveland and Pittsburgh are a couple of them, and it forces them to basically kind of double their payroll at that point, using that deferred and that trickle down revenue shared type money. But it also restores the competitive balance, because look at that number. The Mets, if that were the case, the Mets have to slash $120 million worth of payroll. When Skubal signs, the Dodgers are going to have to slash their payroll in half.
I understand that. Now, I did some quick looking up while you were talking about that. So the competitive balance tax collected under the luxury tax, 50% of the money collected goes to player benefits, pension, healthcare, stuff like that. Hats off to Major League Baseball for doing that, because that was the Players Association did that. The other 50% goes to the clubs. Now, the guys who pay in don't get their money back. So the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Phillies,
the Braves.
The Braves are nowhere near the fucking luxury tax.
Hang on. I've got the 2026 payrolls up here. So what are we talking? 250 or more?
I believe so.
Okay. So you got the Cubs at 261 at 8th. The Astros at 268 4. The Braves at 281 are 6th. The Dodgers, as it stands right now, 284.5, but they've also got $45 million right now in deferred money based off of people that are on the injured list. With Blake Snell coming back, that's going to earn $30 million. And then you've got Toronto at 291 at 4th, Philly at 328 3rd, the Yankees at 337 2nd, and the Mets at 345 in 1st for cash totals for this year.
So here's how it goes. The luxury tax threshold for 2026 is 244 million. The first year you're over it, it's 20% tax on all overages. The second consecutive year, it's 30. The third consecutive year, it's 50% or more. There's also a threshold for clubs that exceed the base threshold by 20 million or more. 20 to 40 million, it's a 12% surcharge. 40 to 60, it's 42.5. 60 million or more, it's a 60% surcharge. They also lose draft picks. So basically what you're telling me is, so over 244. That's everybody you just listed. So that's what? 8, 9 teams?
8.
Okay, so 8 teams. So that means 22 teams. So let's do the math real quick. How much was the Pirates? not
Pirates
the
are
Cubs.
23rd right now
Cubs.
at
The
132.
Cubs. You said the Cubs were the first one, over 240.
Yeah, the Cubs would be the first one over 250, and they're at 261.
All right, so they're at 261. And this is the first year times 30%. That's 78.3 million. So keep that number in there.
Which is
78.3.
actually almost as much as the Guardians' entire payroll.
All right, so let's go to that. So 70.3. Who's next?
Up from the Cubs?
Yeah.
Houston at 268.4.
That's 80.52. We're at $179 million right now in luxury tax money.
Which actually would
179.
put them, those two teams alone would put them 17th, which would outspend the Kansas City Royals that have a $168 million payroll.
All right, hold on. So we're at 179. I'm writing this down because we're going to do the math right now. Who's next?
Atlanta at 281.8.
And I'm using 30%, saying they've all done it at least once. That's 84.54.
Which exceeds
next?
Cleveland's entire payroll of 81.7 right now.
Yep. Who's next?
The Dodgers at 284.5, but Mike, put a pin in that here because
What's
I
the
actually
Dodgers' real number? 330? 340?
Let me calculate this. So they're at 284. Where'd it go? Clicked one screen and it took it off. Okay, so the Dodgers are 284.5 right now. And then we add in injured list money. So Tyler Glass now is 30 million.
It's 314.
Blake Snell is 12.8, 327.
That's 327.
Blake Trinan is 11 million. And
338.
Will Smith is 8 million, and everybody else is like 3 million or below. So their technical number right now is about 346.3, which actually outspends the Mets by $3 million.
That's 103.89 million in luxury tax money. Who's next?
Toronto at 291 even, almost. Like it's like 291 and change.
That's 87.
Philadelphia,
Then it's the Yankees, I'm guessing. Philly.
Philadelphia is 328 and change.
It's 98.4.
The Yankees are 337.7. Call it 337.8.
101.34.
And the Mets are 345.2.
The Mets pay 103.56 in the Steve Cohen tax. Now I'm going to add these up. 103.56 plus 179, 84.54, 103.89, 87, 98.4, 1.34 equals divided by, that was 8 teams, right?
Yes.
That's $757.73 million. So $750 million divided by 22. That means every single team in Major League Baseball that does not pay into the luxury tax gets $34 million. Or what is half the Guardians' payroll for 500, Alex?
Which basically what buys you one player right now, one star player per year with contracts
Right now.
the way that they are.
Right now, but this is my point. You're getting $34 million before tickets, merch, food, TV deals.
You can't really talk about the TV deals just because of all of the TV deals that have gone belly up with the fact that Major League Baseball is kind of taken over for a number of teams with FanDuel
Everybody's
going
getting a
under.
cut. Everybody's getting a cut of the Apple, the Netflix, the ESPN, which I disagree with. You're getting the cut of the NBC money. In reality, before ticket sales, Major League Baseball teams are making in excess of $60 to $65 million off the jump before they sell a fucking ticket. You're being handed $65 million and you spend 70 on a roster. That's fucking criminal, James.
I understand that, Mike, but can we also agree that there's going to be at least some form of work stoppage? We're going to have a
I agree.
lockout where
I get it.
we're so far apart that the players want a floor, the owners want a cap. And it's this move. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, and somebody said it online, and I completely agree with it. We've seen stoppages in the NBA. We've seen the World Series canceled in our lifetime. We've seen an entire an entire NHL season lost. And for as much shit as people give Gary Bettman, he made the smart move that nobody else really did. And one of the first things that they made sure that they wrote into the new CBA that the NHL signed last year with the Players Association was to close that loophole on the deferred money. That deferred money in baseball is going away when this thing gets signed.
I agree with you. And here's
when this thing goes through, when this work stoppage happens, I never have seen in my life this large of a majority of the fan base starting to side with the owners instead of the players because of how out of hand this has gotten.
Well, again, people are siding with the owners, aren't remembering it's the owners who sign the fucking checks.
I understand that, but there's no reason that Ohtani is worth no baseball player should be paid $500 million and have that money deferred until they're eligible for Social Security.
Jim, I disagree with Ohtani's contract 100%. I also agree with the deferrals. Here's where deferrals make sense, okay? And I'm not saying this because I'm a Met fan of Bobby Bonilla, but if you want to release a player who is not producing, he's not playing well, he is a drag on your roster, you want to release him and defer money through collective bargaining between you and that player, fine. They should put a threshold on the deferral money.
That's
even in there.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I brought it up on last week's show with one of our segments. That's where I think that Deshaun Watson with the Cleveland Browns will not be on the roster by the end of the season because they're already paying him this year and they've got 3 years worth of deferred money. So if you're going to defer money, you put a cap on it. It's 3 years, max at that point. And then it also still counts against your salary cap at this point. None of this deferred $2 million a year for the next 40-year bullshit. So the Browns were going to release Watson maybe by the end of the year, and then they're still paying him for 3 more years to get his contract off the books because they kept deferring it because of how bad that contract was. Well, the problem is with the Dodgers, they go out and they spend more than anybody else because they've got the resources that no other team, not even the Yankees really anymore,
or
have
the Mets.
ability, or the Mets have the ability to do anymore. So they've got the ability to do that, but they, again, deferred $250 million worth of that money, essentially. And they're successful at it, but the Browns suck, and they're trying to defer that money to improve their team. That team's not going to improve until Deshaun Watson is off of that roster by the end of the season.
Agreed. Here's the other thing. Kyle Tucker's contract is heavily deferred. Mookie Betts' contract is heavily deferred. Freddie Freeman's contract is heavily deferred. The Dodgers didn't just start doing this with Ohtani. The Dodgers have been doing this for a while now. And, I get it. They were playing within the rules of what the collective bargaining agreement was. But here's my problem. And again, this is the main issue I have with it. Everybody could have fucking done it.
I understand that, but the one hole that I'm going to punch in your argument is the one that I can't say enough right now. Everyone trying to defend the Dodgers saying they're playing within the rules. The problem is there are no fucking rules anymore.
Well, obviously there are rules, because if you go over 240 million on your payroll, you're bouncing out $100 million on top of it. That's real money collected. Do you want to know something funny? The Dodgers, because of Ohtani's popularity across the Pacific, have made his contract money back. Think about that. There is so much money flowing into baseball because anything international, who do you think gets all the money from the WBC?
Right.
The countries? No, MLB does. So now a part of the CBA is how the revenue from the WBC is split out, which means these teams are getting more money without having to sell a fucking ticket. That's my problem. Jim, that's my problem. That has been my problem since 1994. That has been my problem every time the CBA comes up. There is so much money coming from the league going to each individual team. It is fucking insane.
And that's
and
going
you
to be
have
one of
too many owners. You have too many owners who are doing this. I like that yacht. I want a fourth house. You know for a fact, because the guy running the show in Cleveland is a fucking scumbag. And he's doing that shit.
Yeah. But this
taking
is actually
seats out of your stadium and having the county pay for a renovation. Fuck you, Dolan, you scumbag.
And this is actually why we got this stoppage coming, because that's the argument the players are going to make against the owners, but then the owners are also going to counteract with, there's no competitive balance. So this is the epitome of salary cap versus salary floor, and that's where we're going to basically have, mutant league intro where the two helmets collide and then there's a gigantic explosion.
And the next argument off of that is this. Then take the owner of the Rangers and punch him in his face because he started it.
With Alex Rodriguez. Thank you. I was trying to remember the one that broke the camel's back originally, and that
10 years,
was
$275.
I know we don't want to talk wrestling tonight. First of all, fuck you, Brock Lesnar. Thank God you're gone. As he announced his retirement on McAfee's show today. But
I thought you were going to say something about the Shield.
Fuck you, Roman Reigns too.
Yeah.
But I'm going to quote Seth Rollins. Burn it down. Because that's the only way they're going to fix this. Burn it down, Michael.
I don't think burning it down is going to fix it either. You know what's got to happen? Somebody's got to get in a room with some fans and have these fans tear them a new asshole. You need to
players
put Tony
and owners.
Clark, no, that's what I'm saying. You need to put Tony Clark and gap tooth fucker in the same room with fans. And you need to let the fans tear them both, because Rob Manfred will walk out of there with a limp because they'd go for his knees. And Tony Clark might have a dent in the back of his head from as many times he gets fucking smacked. Jim, I'm telling you, I will turn into the petty Rican and go off on these motherfuckers if I don't get a baseball season next year.
Well, Mike, I think I've kind of cranked up the crystal ball, and I think I can already tell what we're going to hear next year. It's coming. We better find out. Honestly, we're going to be touching grass next year because we're certainly not going to be watching anybody playing on it.
Something tells me in another segment tonight, we'll be talking about watching someone else play on it.
Well played.
Hey, in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't.
Well, Jim, as we get to the second and final segment of the night, we're going to do an old-fashioned blast segment from the Wise Guys as we spend 45 minutes talking about that shit show that is Major League Baseball. In tonight's blast, we are actually going to start it with the Big Rican numbers of the week.
Having me pull this up for the first time since we pre-recorded.
So, Jim, we talked about Major League Baseball in the entire first segment. Well, last weekend happened to be Hall of Fame induction. 10 years to the day since I went to see Mike Piazza and Ken Griffey Jr. get inducted with my father-in-law. One of the greatest days of my life. And funny thing is, we found the camera I took. I now have his speech on the memory card.
Nice.
I gotta load it into here and save it. But on Sunday, for the third time in history, a player went into the Hall of Fame with a New York Mets cap on his hat, and that was Carlos Beltran, highly regarded as one of the greatest switch hitters of all time. And of course, Andruw Jones, the second best center fielder of our lifetime, behind Griffey. But the fun fact is this: Andruw Jones and Carlos Beltran. Jones born on April 23rd, 1977 in Curacao. Beltran born on April 24th, 1977 in Puerto Rico. They finished their careers. Beltran hit 435 home runs, and Andruw Jones hit 434. Yes, that's right. Gentlemen born one day apart, finished one home run apart, and both now are in Cooperstown.
Very, very cool stat. It's always like fun to find those little kind of nuggets in the wild, like leading your team in ninth inning doubles in the month of August.
Dick. So in tonight's blast, we're going to get to, by the way, we talked about the boys of summer for the entire first segment. Now let's talk about the ladies.
It's all about the ladies from here on out.
This is where we need to have ladies night by Kool and the Gang on a button.
Or at least a generic version of it. So, Mike,
Yeah.
let's start in the middle there, let's keep the baseball theme going.
For the first time since the 1940s, women have a professional baseball league. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. A League of Their Own wasn't just a clever film by Penny Marshall with Tom Hanks and Gina Davis. It actually happened. And now the Women's Professional Baseball League had their first full weekend of games last weekend, where All the Way May, Madonna's character, the woman who she was based off, was throwing out the first pitch at nearly 100 years old. Some of the names we have seen before, the biggest headliner being Mo'ne Davis, who is the shortstop for the LA team. Kim Eng, the former general manager of the Miami Marlins, is the league president of the WPBL. And Jim, let me tell you something. I've watched some highlights from these games. These women can play.
Especially that girl that went yard, the first home run in history. That thing was a missile.
That was a piss missile. The one first baseman, I don't know her name, but I believe she has a gymnastics background.
Yes.
And does a full split to get somebody out on a double play. These ladies can flat out play. They have the one pitcher, the woman who played for the Bananas and was out at the ESPYs dancing the first, the opening number of the ESPYs with the Bananas.
Yeah.
Side note on that song was written by the same guys who wrote The Greatest Showman, the Hugh Jackman movie, which Jackson Olsen, that is his favorite film. And that's how he comes up to the plate every night. So Jackson got to meet with the guys who wrote his favorite movie. And, they wrote a song for the Bananas, which they performed with DJ fucking Khaled at the ESPYs. Are you kidding me right now?
I mean,
and I can't get.
I'm not
a
big Khaled fan, although I will say Black Rims from NBA 2K26 or 2K16, always a banger.
That is a banger. And I can't get tickets, and I live an hour south of Savannah. This is bullshit, is what it is.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'll tell you this much: if we get a baseball lockout, the group of individuals that are actually going to thrive more than ever, you're going to see a you're going to see a 50 city multiple time through a Banana Ball World Tour next year. But
Jesus Christ.
we'll talk about that in another time. I mean, only 4 teams in the league. They're all playing basically in a bubble at that particular point until they can kind of expand the league out. Kind of like what the PWHL kind of did, where when they only had their 6 original teams, and a lot of those games were played, kind of elsewhere. They still do their takeover events where, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised you saw Cleveland get one, this year for at
Love
least
that.
a game or two. They played they played, a few games in St. Louis. They've played, they go into other markets trying to draw up, and that's how you end up growing your league, is you go to markets. And that's actually where that first thing is there that we're going to talk about here in a second. And that's what led to Cleveland getting a WNBA franchise. But Mike, for some of for the 15 other teams that are established, we had a major trade earlier this week.
I mean, I was shocked that this trade, Jim, you want to go over the details of this trade? Because I can't even speak on it.
I trying to pull up the exact, hang on one second. I just had it. So the Los Angeles Sparks send 5-time All-Star Kelsey Plum to the Phoenix Mercury for Monique McConney, a 2027 first-round pick and a 2028 second-round pick. So the Sparks get a little bit younger, and hoping to still bolster with their young roster of draft picks. They're hoping, with the picks that they've actually had in recent years, to be able to develop those. And then Phoenix, here's a team that's struggling and fighting for their playoff lives right now. And they end up getting a 5-time All-Star potential, future Hall of Famer who's coming off of an injury. And she was still averaging nearly 24 points a game before she got hurt.
Yeah, 23.6, 2.1 rebounds, 6.2 assists on 53% from the field. Jim, let's be honest. And I'm going to say this is one of the trades that you are shocked to hear, but I kind of feel bad for the player, not because of where Phoenix is sitting in the standings. Jim, whose shoes is she going into?
Yeah, I agree.
You're telling me you got to go get Kelsey Plum to try and replace Diana Taurasi. Do not do that to this woman.
Yeah, but they've kind of moved on from that, because Phoenix, really outside of last year, hasn't been as competitive. I mean, they're still 5.5 games out of the playoff race, and they're starting to run out of time here. I mean, if we look through the standings, Minnesota, we know, is going to be there at 25-6. Las Vegas will be there. Who would have thought in year number 2 the Golden State Valkyries are going to end up having likely a top 4 and a home court advantage playoff spot? The Indiana Fever are in the running. Here's how this is where parity works out well. The 4 and 5 seeds right now in the WNBA are the Indiana Fever and the Dallas Wings. Michael, who are the point guards for these two teams?
Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers. Dude, I'm telling you, this is more, and because the Knicks won, this is more entertaining than the NBA this season.
Very much.
How can we hate? Oh no, we can hate the Knicks. I was shocked by that move, Jim. I really was. I mean, we were excited to see her and Cameron Brink play together in LA, and now Kelsey's in the desert. And well, I mean, listen, she played well in Vegas. She's always been warm climates. I mean, for God's sake, San Antonio, where she launched that T-shirt into third deck to her father.
With
San Antonio
still recovering from a torn ACL. Remember,
yeah,
she had a full-length brace on.
Yeah. So, San Antonio to Vegas, when the San Antonio franchise moved out there, she won 2 titles with Becky Hammon out there?
Yes.
Not Becky Hammon. Yeah, with Becky Hammon.
Yeah, Becky Hammon.
Then she gets traded to the Sparks, and you wanted to see how her and Cameron Brink, coming off the knee injury, would play together. there's been injuries, there's been issues. Now she's in Phoenix. I would love to see her succeed in Phoenix. But I don't know. I don't think Phoenix has got the wherewithal to get it done the way they did when Diana was there.
I do agree with that. Because I mean, when you look at the salary cap numbers there, Phoenix right now sitting in 11th, they're like $45,000 under the cap. Where you've also got the expansion Portland Fire 2 million under the cap. The average right now is about just shy of 475,000 in available cap. Golden State for third in the league, they're 126,000 over the cap. Las Vegas is 109,000 over the cap. So still with with good range here. LA just shy of 975,000 under the cap now that Kelsey's contract is not there. But this again, you're right. Cameron Brink gets hurt. We were hoping to actually see what we could get out of both of them together. Cameron comes back, fully healthy and everything. Plays plays the majority of last season. The Sparks definitely don't live up to their billing. They're 6 games under 500 now. They decide to ship Kelsey off to a team that's also doing just as poorly. So I mean, it's kind of a win-win for both teams at this point, because it allows LA to fully embrace their rebuild and go as young as humanly possible for them while still being relatively competitive. And then it allows Phoenix, even though they're probably not going to, they're might be a little too far out right now. This puts them in good shape to be able to maybe get a player in free agency and be able to try to get back there next year. Because you don't have any new expansion teams coming in next year. The only thing that you're going to have, because you had the 2 teams this year, you had Golden State last year, you got Toronto and Portland this year, and Toronto was playing very well, then hit the skids, and right now is sitting 9 games under 500 and has lost 6 in a row. Seattle right now is looking like they're going to be, right there at the top of the draft lottery, and they're going to be competing with the Connecticut. Don't call me Houston Sun, because remember, this is the last year of the Sun before they relocate to Houston. We don't know if the Comets are going to come back. We thought about the new. I'm not going to go into it just yet. We keep teasing and burying the lead, but the new Cleveland WNBA team is not known as the Rockers, because somebody else owns that trademark. So I'm wondering if it's the same thing with the Comets after the Comets ended up having to fold, 10 years ago. It would be a nice touch. But certainly modernize it at that point. Because remember, you're by the end of this decade, you're at 18 teams, because you still got Detroit and Philadelphia coming in. You got Houston switching, from which is almost like an expansion team. You never like to see a team move, but it's always nice to be able to see a new identity evolve.
Yeah, it also depends on what the circumstances around the move are. I saw on TikTok somebody arguing the Jordan LeBron thing, and he tried to say that Dwayne Wade was a far better player than Scottie Pippen. And I thought about it. I'm like, you're wearing a Ravens jersey, bro. You're rooting for a stolen team with an idiot take. But I think Connecticut's issue was attendance, right? Listen, when you're a WNBA team that has to compete with a college team like what Gino Auriemma has done in Stores, good luck.
Well,
good luck.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and we're now going to finally talk about it. It was the success of what happened up in Stores that allowed Connecticut to land the Sun into a WNBA franchise, and there were talks back in early 2025 between Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cavaliers, about buying the Sun and moving them to Cleveland. Remember, we talked about how they were rumored, and it was almost basically, pen to paper, that they were going to be headed to Boston and still stay in that part of the country.
Yeah.
And then that fell through, and then they're officially moving to Houston. So, and then the Final Four comes to Cleveland. Caitlin Clark's there, and it's still the biggest television numbers in the history of the women's Final Four. And oh yeah, it was in Cleveland. Cleveland lands a WNBA franchise. And Michael, we would like to officially hear the call. Welcome to the Cleveland Sirens.
I love it. Especially I find it hilarious that they're coming out with this name after the Odyssey came out.
A lot of people are saying that, but it had nothing to do with it.
No, it nothing to
Right.
do with it. Listen, not gonna lie to you. When you sent John and I the video of in the water and whatnot, I heard, what's his name in my ear? The singer that did Toy Story, Randy Newman. Heard Randy Newman in my head.
Somebody was actually saying, the Toronto, the New York Sirens of the PWHL might like to have a talk. Well, the difference is that they're actually called the Sirens based off of the noise and everything, and the sirens that you hear in New York. These are about, the Greek mythological creature. And Mike, when I originally saw that, with the press conference when they announced that earlier today, I thought it was going to be like blue and black. Apparently, it's going to be royal blue with that kind of aqua type blue or that sky blue. With me being colorblind, I don't really, know what that silhouette is. And the coloring of the Cleveland and the word mark there. I don't know if there's going to be a little bit of black with that, but I do like this because it's a completely different identity. And for my money, I love the way that the siren incorporates in with that. A couple other things here. These are the secondary marks, and this is courtesy of sportslogos.net.
Wow.
I like this.
I like the ball coming out of the water.
That's the other one. This just rocks. This is awesome.
Dude, if we can find a hat like that, I would buy it.
Oh, I am so waiting on one of these. It's like I may not buy season tickets right away, but I will definitely have this on a cap here probably by the end of the year if they market it, even though this team is not going to start play for 2 seasons.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I will say this. The color scheme is 2 of the blues the Cavaliers have worn. Think about it. The blue from the era of Mark Price and Brad Doherty and those boys.
And then the light blue from the Danny Ferry, John Battle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The first few years of the arena.
Yeah. Which they kept after they got rid of the arcing swish logo.
Exactly.
And then just went with the word mark.
Uh-huh.
So I do like this. They're not going to have an expansion draft until after next season. I really, really like where this is going. They actually had Kobe Altman and the Cavaliers CEO. His name is eluding me at the moment. Make the announcement. They had a Rockers legend come out with them. They had a couple of high school talents debut some of like the sweatshirts and everything. They've already got some stuff up on the team shop. There's probably going to be some stuff in the team shop as early as this weekend. It's mostly like hoodies and t-shirts. There's like 1 or 2 caps right now. None of the dad caps that I typically wear. But yeah, when those become available, dude, I will actually grab and send you one. But I really, really like this. It's and I'm amped up. It looks a little, the S in there, I do like a lot. There's a lot of people that take umbrage with the name. Why wasn't it the Rockers? Well, when the Rockers folded, the Guns abandoned the trademark, and it was purchased by the owner of the Women's Basketball League, which never really got off the ground. So they could not file for that trademark. But that was the other thing that they mentioned even before that was a case when the team was granted, when the city was granted the expansion franchises, they said that they did not want to use that name. It would not be the Rockers because they wanted to establish a new identity. Well, Mike, what better way to establish a new identity here than think about this? You've got 3 teams now that are draped in the lore of the city. You've got the Guardians based off of the Guardian statue on the bridge. You've got the
Yep.
Monsters leaning into the Lake Erie Monster urban legend. And now you got the Sirens for the same reason. Why not lean into the history of Lake Erie and the myths that have been handed down for generations? It's perfect.
Look, that's why Randy Newman popped through my head. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's a beautiful song, the one that opens Major League. But in my near decade of living there and the love I still have for, that I adore Cleveland and where I grew up. That lake is as much a part of that city as pierogies, as green beer on St. Patrick's Day, as cutting school to drink green beer on St. Patrick's Day.
And throwing up in designated green painted crosswalks.
Exactly. And the Browns, the Guards, the Cavs, the lake is everything. I mean, it's called the Mistake on the Lake for a long time. There was a fucking reason. There's not anymore. And I tell you what, I'm excited. I am very excited. I'm more excited that I think that's when Caitlin Clark's rookie deal is up. Just saying. Throwing it out there.
Yeah, wishful thinking, brah. It's never gonna happen, but we'll see. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, really, unless you're Golden State and you got that plethora of a draft right now, we're gonna have to actually pay a lot of attention to women's college basketball next season to be able to see who they're gonna be able to take, in the top 5 of the draft. And then they're also going to have to make somebody expendable for when Detroit comes in the year after, and then Philadelphia in 2030. So very, very cool on the WNBA with this expanding out, the PWHL expanding out. So if you're a women's sports fan, it is a very, very good time to be alive, and we love watching it. We love the WNBA. I'm a big fan of the PWHL. We love watching women's softball all season. Now we've got the PWBL. It's striking while the iron's hot, especially with the fact that, let's also talk about the best thing about this. By the time they get there, Kathy Engelbert's not going to be the commissioner anymore.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator. It is the best segment of the night because it's the last segment of the night. It is that time when James and I give each other names inside and outside of the sports world. And then we give you the first thing that pops into our evil, evil little minds. And as we have been doing now again, every week, the 5 funniest minutes of my day, the Chronicle.
In honor of your kid going back to school.
Oh, shit.
Bobby, I love you to death. Ha ha!
You need to cut this part right here and send it to my wife, because remember, now here's something I got to do real quick, and then we'll jump into the translator. Not only is Thursday Bobby's first day of school, and I know Georgia goes back real early, but his last day last year was May 21st. Thursday is also my beautiful wife's birthday, so I want to send out a happy birthday to Steph. This is the 17th birthday of hers that we have celebrated together. So it's and here's to many more. So happy birthday, honey. As I know you're upstairs wondering why the hell this is taking so long. I love that, by the way. So, James, since I am the one who has to give you the first name in tonight's Wisey Translator, I am going to stay with the baseball theme of the night. And your name in tonight's translator, James, is embattled New York Mets general manager, president of baseball operations, David Stearns.
No.
You're gonna die, clown!
You have outside of the Dodgers and their injuries, you have the highest payroll in baseball, and you're going to finish dead last for the second time in 3 years. You might want to be competitive if you're going to spend the money.
Agreed. I mean, granted, sandwiched in there is 2 wins from the World Series in 24. And a season last year, which they finished over 500, but they fell apart in the second half. Dude, there are so many people who want him dead, dude. Not even fired. They want him dead. Mets Twitter. You think Brown's Twitter's toxic? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, but at this particular point, let it be as toxic as we can. We talked about it for 30 minutes a little earlier. It's not going to matter at the end of September because we're not going to be seeing anybody or be able to bitch about it for a little while afterwards.
Well, give them to the end of October. I think we're
going
to get a decent World
Think
Series
of it this way. You better I'll tack this on to him. And then I'll move on to your translator where I'm going to have a little bit of fun with you.
Dick.
He better pray to whatever deity he does that the Dodgers do not win the World Series, because otherwise that's the only way that it will be able to shed the stench of the 2026 New York Mets, having that payroll and having that bad of a team. If the Dodgers can go out and spend that kind of money and not win the whole thing, that means the Dodgers would be the biggest choke artist of the year and not your boys, in all respect.
There's no respect there, and I don't have any for them either, so you're okay. They're all going to laugh at you.
Michael, you probably heard about it last week. You might have even seen the clip and how viral it went afterwards. I'm going to take you to Minneapolis. And no, I'm not going to talk about the douchebag that retired on Pat McAfee's show earlier today, but I'm going to stay in his company. And it was probably the best moment to come out of WWE SummerSlam. Your name in tonight's Wisey Translator is the once afterthought and now new women's interim champion, Chelsea Green.
In all fairness, I am not as up on it as even you are, who can't stand that company. I was hoping for as Brad Williams as a mini Danhausen that would come up in conversation today. I only caught literally 2 highlights of SummerSlam. I caught the end of the Roman Reigns, what's his name match?
Seth Rollins.
When each of them pulled a Dean Ambrose move in the middle of the match and then did the Shield thing at the end, which I thought was pretty cool. And I saw Brad Williams as a Minihausen, and I saw Lesnar raise Obafemi's hand. Outside of that, I really didn't pay attention to any of it. Oh, and I know Jade Cargill had her baby. Not Jade Cargill. Who's the one who just had the kid?
Bianca Belair.
That's it. Bianca just had her baby.
But you did hear about what happened with Chelsea, right?
No, I did not. What happened?
So Chelsea, who was an afterthought, was added into the women's ladder match to crown the interim champion after Rhea Ripley could not defend because of a legit injury, wins the interim championship over Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, Charlotte Flair, and Lash Legend. So here's a girl who is basically the comedy act, is now the women's champion on Raw.
Jesus Christ. This is like when
And-
they put the belt on Foley the first time.
But here's where it gets even better, is during an episode of Mark Calloway's 6 Feet Under podcast, he has Michael Hayes on. And Chelsea was also featured on season 2 of WWE Unreal. And Calloway's talking about how good Chelsea is and how great that she can be. And there's a lot of money they can make with her. Michael Hayes has the audacity to say that she's not Tiffany Stratton. She's not Charlotte Flair. Her job is to make them Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair.
Well,
Basically being fed to them to get them over.
Michael Hayes is the last Vince disciple that's in there.
Maybe Bruce
That's
Pritchard.
why he said
but
that shit. Well, yeah, but Bruce Pritchard knows that if he runs his mouth with Vince, that Triple H will fire his ass as fast as he can. Michael Hayes has too much cachet with the older guys for him to get rid of him. But
So,
Bruce Pritchard, he'd probably tell Bruce Pritchard to go fuck himself.
so in the after show press conference that they do, Chelsea, who's married to, one of my personal favorites, Matt Cardona,
Yep.
Long Island Ice Z, the former Zack Ryder, gets up there and says, so nobody gave me a chance, and I was going up against a former WNBA player, a gymnast, Jade Cargill, who was born with abs, and Charlotte Flair, who was born into this business. And here's me walking away with the championship, and I want to dedicate this championship to Michael Hayes.
Good for you, Chelsea.
I don't know how much of it was a shoot, but there was definitely some shoot behind it, and good on Chelsea. So
Amen.
as a member of, I salute our president, Chelsea Green. So, Michael, it's going to be weird not having the show posted on Saturday. It should be up hopefully sometime tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night by the time we're taping this. So it'll be August 5th still. So we get a nice little 10-day break here. And we're back as we hit episode 160.
It's hard to believe. I was talking to a customer of mine the other day, and it had popped up on my phone something and saw the logo, and he goes, I saw that flipping through YouTube the other day. I said, then subscribe, bro. Subscribe and watch. But we got something else coming up too, Jim. And I told you in pre-show tonight, I wanted to start teasing it. But for everybody who listens or watches, we want you to start looking at saving the date tour in October. Because it will be on October the 23rd. It will be 5 years that the Wise Guys have been blessing your airwaves with our actually.
No, I'm not going to do a spinner, Rooney. Dude, shut up.
That have been blessing your airwaves with not only, in my opinion, some of the better takes out there in the sports world, because we actually, I don't know, pay a fucking attention, but also the hilarity that is a translator and just the fun that these two 30-plus year friends have with each other online. And of course, when we get John and Alex involved, it just gets real dumb. So we are going to start cooking something up. That is going to be a live show. It is hopefully going to have plenty of guests. Hopefully the Horsemen can bring that one home, but It's been 5 years since we started doing this, and ever since I said, dude, you need to come on the show. Come on. And that went on for about 6 months. And then we finally did a high school reunion episode, and then all of a sudden I got my hat. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be designing mine this weekend now that I know I'm not having this tooth pulled until after Labor Day. So, yeah.
Good
so
things.
It works out, for me, at least this way. I don't have to go toothless up to New York for the Lady A concert at the end of the month. But, it works
I'm
out.
telling you, if they want to pull your tooth, let's make them do it around the hockey preview, and it would just play right into our segments.
Speaking of which, the captain to the Segway strikes again as not next week, the 15th, but the 22nd. We are probably going to be targeting the Wise Guys football preview. And I'm not saying NFL or college because it's going to be both. Since now we are in the pre-recorded format, we will spend segment 1 talking about either college or pro, and we will spend segment 2 talking about the other, and there will be no other discussion of basketball, football, hockey, anything like that, because then a couple of weeks after Labor Day, we're going to be looking at our NBA and NHL previews. Going from there, we'll definitely have our MLB postseason, but then again, Michael, that might be a 5-minute segment for all we know.
Well, I think it'll be a 5-minute segment in protest of what is going on with the Dodgers. But I'll tell you what, Jim, like I told you in the first segment, if we get a replay of that 2020 World Series, we may have something really to look forward to.
As he fans 6 and then they lose again tonight in his debut.
Who?
Scooble. They lose
Bro, watch him
5-1,
get-
but he threw 6 strikeouts in 6 innings.
Watch this happen. Watch them get to October and lose in like the LDS.
Again, it gets your Mets off the hook, bro.
Nothing gets my Mets off the fucking hook. Do you know what would get me? Do you know what would get my Mets off the hook? And this is how deep of a dive I did on YouTube the other night. The only thing that would get him off the hook is getting whoever put this curse on them on a stage, throwing a Sambuca milkshake on them a la Ford Fairlane and lighting them on fire.
I can close with 2 jokes right now, and I think I might.
Go ahead.
Number 1, you just referenced something. Booty time, booty time, booty time. The fact that was Ed fucking O'Neill.
The greatest white disco song of all time.
And number 2, you brought him up a minute ago. You are cursed.
I need Danhausen to help us out like he did the fucking Knicks.
We'll see you guys in 10 days.
See you in a few days.